What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 24th, 2020. This was a semi-busy week. Actually, a lot of interesting things happened, but not a whole lot to discuss. So it's probably going to be a shorter week in review than we typically do. So jumping right into it, as always, we start out with the patch notes. We got two patches this week, both on the PTU. 3.8.2C, which was just a couple minor fixes. One was for the Argo Mole and a kind of loop if you were logging out in the bed. That should be fixed, as well as a crypto key fix for being able to take off more than one crime. So before it was one crime per crypto key, I believe, and now it's one crypto key can take off multiple crimes. Then we had a 3.8.2D, and this was the big one. This was when the Anvil Carrack was added. It was very fun with friends. I see the potential of Star Citizen when they put ships out like this. And, originally, I was kind of like, why is everybody getting so excited? And I can kind of see it. Once you're in the interior of the ship, I think this was one of the better interiors. And we will discuss that a bit when we go into the video content. Also, originally, they could not give the Carrack to owners that had the C8X upgrade, but they now can. So thanks to a very good friend of mine, Proxys, he kind of had a part in that. At least he's the guy who makes the posts about it. I don't know. The antenna are still there as well, so keep that in mind. In the original concept art, there's the antenna and there's the cockpit armor. Those aren't gone. They're just not currently functioning in the patch, and this came from the feedback thread, so give your feedback for the Carrack there. Now moving on to the roadmap, there's actually quite a bit to discuss here, but again, with some caveats. So 3.9 is about 2/3 of the way done. There were two major subtractions from it that I'd like to discuss with you today. It's the new targeting methodology and high-speed combat. They moved because building blocks work needs to be completed in order to make these changes a reality. It seems pretty obvious based on the amount of tasks that need to be done before they're complete. So we'll have to see on those. Now, that is kind of disappointing. I would have liked to see the high-speed combat changes available as soon as possible, because that's one of the major things they're touting should improve our combat experience, and unfortunately, we have to wait for it again. So hopefully we get that one soon. 4.0 had no notable changes other than the movement of these two tasks to it, but we did get 4.1 finally, and I don't care to discuss these additions too much. They're so far out that changes are clearly going to happen. Additions, it's a very empty patch. I noticed people saying, oh man, there's nothing to do in this patch. Well, it's 6 months away. They probably don't want to tell you too much about what they have planned, because maybe they don't really know yet. So as they know more, they'll probably add to the roadmap as well as move some things around. So we'll just talk about the additions. Object push and pull. It allows us to grab larger objects and move them around by pushing and pulling. Also improve throw. This is the way we throw grenades, as well as other items being added to the list of things that we can throw. Missile operator mode. This is kind of interesting. Missiles will be able to be launched from other seats in multi-crew ships. They specifically mentioned the Vanguard here for this mode. Ship AI, hazard awareness and avoidance. Just AI avoiding heavily guarded areas and other hazardous areas. FPS combat improvements and polishing. This will likely result in changes coming from whenever Theater of War releases. I would assume it will release before 4.1, so this is probably a preemptive change coming from feedback gained from Theaters of War, which may be 3.9 still, we don't really know. FPS realistic weapon handling. This was kind of poorly worded since it's for AI. It's better to handle for them to handle different types of guns and manage ammo. Not too huge of an update thing there. Then we also had the Mercury Star Runner, which we did know, as we found out last week or the week before. Bearing GP33 grenade launcher. Cool. Right. Greycat FPS multi-tool cutting attachment. This is one thing that's maybe worth an interesting little discussion point. Is the big takeaway here is that there will be some free cutting on certain surfaces, and it likely would be ships. As we know, if you've ever shot ships, you can kind of shoot out the hull in a pattern. Maybe this cutting tool attachment has something to do with that. Now, moving on to video content, we had a pretty decent Inside Star Citizen. We heard last time they talked about the moons, about how nervous they were, about how long it would take them, and this first clip explains why these moons are different from the previous reworks that they had to do that they said took them, we did it in 2 months, and all that at CitizenCon. So here you go.
So the process was a little different this time in comparison to the entire planet rework that we have done just before CitizenCon. These 3 moons now are just made with the V4 with no attachment to any previous visuals that we had to accomplish. We simply could make use of the entire library that we have to our disposal, take the rocks from the caves, create snow or ice materials for them, and arrange them in a different manner, and then give them an entirely different look.
Now this explains why it would take a little bit more time. I think it's pretty obvious that, before they had a lot of idea of what a Daymar would look like and where the outpost would be and all that stuff. But with these moons, they have nothing really to go up based off of other than some concept art, it seems, and maybe some write-up. So speaking of concept art, a lot of these moons look they look similar. They look very, very similar from afar. So how are they going to make them feel different when we are on the surface? They talk about in this clip here.
So the first thing that you will notice when actually looking at every single moon individually is, of course, the slightly different color schemes. But I would say the most important feature that is really different is the distribution and type of ocean we have on every single one of those. So one of them has no ocean at all. The second one has an ocean that is completely frozen though. And the third one has an actually fluid ocean. So that was one of the ways we could distinguish all of them and make them look interesting, but still fit into that entire theme.
The use of oceans to make each moon feel different is really smart. Good idea. Looking forward to checking them out. And I do hope that these moons come a little bit more action-packed, I guess, than some of the previous moons like we've seen on, I don't know, I think ArcCorp and Hurston, their moons are, some of them have a decent amount of outposts and things that you can do on them, like Lyria is a pretty good one. Hurston's moons, not so much, just a couple outposts on each. But I hope that we get a little bit of microtech action going on way out there. It might be pretty cool. Then we have some Carrack updates. So Jared goes room by room in the Carrack, and they are beating this to death. So I'm not going to do any like cutting to a clip or anything. We're just going to lay some B-roll over, and I want to discuss with you my favorite parts of the ship so far and why. So starting out with me, the bridge. This is what sold me on this ship from the original concept, and it looks pretty good. It looks relatively close to what I originally saw. It's got the 2 levels, and that top level, the view just doesn't disappoint. So it just feels right with the multiple decks, and I like it. The repair room is actually my next favorite. This is something we've yet to see in any other ship, yet to see them ever discuss, really, right? This was never a thing I've heard before, and it just opens up that engineer gameplay in my mind. Obviously, it's not something that exists in the game right now, but the engineer gameplay is something that's very interesting, and they've talked about here and there, but the idea of, components on fire, go fix it, or tweaking things around on your ship while in battle or in combat or in quantum, to see if you can get a little bit more out of your ship. That kind of role always seemed really cool to me. And the hangars are my last highlight. Having a place to scramble a ship or ships from or a vehicle as well from the front it makes the ship really versatile, makes it fun, and it's something I haven't gotten to enjoy yet. I don't own an 890 jump, so that's something I haven't really enjoyed experiencing. Now, on to the disappointing parts. Star Citizen Live. This was supposed to be on the vehicle experience, and they took questions from the community, and I would say about 75% of the questions that were asked that were really good questions were answered with this. Oh, we have a summit this week, and we're going to discuss just that. And but we're not ready to discuss it with you guys yet. That was the entire Star Citizen Live for me. It was extremely disappointing. I don't understand why you would have these people on a show if they're not ready to talk about the vehicle experience. Why are we pushing this vehicle experience so much if they're not ready to talk about it, guys? Like, I don't understand what you're doing sometimes with this video content. It's insane to me. So got that off my chest. Moving on to miscellaneous little updates. We had an update from Bayer on the distortion weapon issues. If anybody tries to use distortion weapons, they very often don't work. This is why. Basically, desync. So, sounds like we just have to wait for them to deal with the tech to resolve the desync issues. I don't think there's going to be any short-term solutions at the moment. I hope there is, but the idea is it's an explosion that goes off, and the explosion is desynced. And maybe we just make them normal weapons that do different types of damage. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. There was also a prison AMA with Luke Presley. That was pretty cool. Not a ton I want to discuss here on today's show, but check it out yourselves. Link will be in the description. And that really does it for today's episode. There isn't much to really go on this week. It's kind of a short episode. I apologize. It's not very in-depth, but honestly, I didn't feel there was much to go in depth about. And we're in that wait for 3.9 mode. Honestly, wait for 3.8.2 live for me. I'm excited to get back to the starter series stuff if the servers are working appropriately. So we'll see. I kind of keep starting these starter series and stopping them. It's getting very frustrating. I'm trying to, I think most of you guys know I don't do this for a living. This is something I do for fun. And the amount of time it was taking to edit those videos as well as have something interesting in them was quite difficult. So I have some ideas for this time around. We'll see how they go. I'm going to give it another go. I'm going to keep trying it until I find something that sticks. So just bear with me with that starter series. I'm really trying to find my way with that, just as I did with Answer the Call, just as the way I'm doing with Week in Review. I'm constantly trying to figure out what works, and we'll see what happens. A lot like game development, I guess, Jared, right? It's iterative. So, guys, I'll catch you later. Everyone have a great one, and yeah, leave a like on the video if you liked it. Leave a comment below on any of the discussions that we had here, and subscribe for more Weeks in Review, and I'll catch you guys next week. Bye, everyone.